Hello, welcome to this Gespi's Atari stuff video. This Atari 520 ST has already appeared in a few of my videos. For instance, in one video I removed the yellowing using a retrobrite. And the memory was expanded from 0.5 megabyte to 2.5 megabytes. If you saw one of these videos, you also saw that this is a German model. That means a German keyboard and a German language TOS version. Now I still have an English language TOS ROM set laying around from my Mega ST. I had installed an ATW800 card in it, which already has switchable TOS ROMs on it. In this video we are going to see if we can replace the German TOS ROMs with the English ones from the Mega ST. Now that 520 ST is quite a bit older than the Mega ST. And in the older ST models Atari used 6 30KB ROM chips for TOS. The TOS in the Mega ST uses 2 1 megabyte ROM chips. If there are 6 of them inside of the 520 ST, then we need to see if we convert it to a 2-chip configuration. We therefore start with opening up the 520 ST to see what kind of configuration is inside. Now that it is open, we can indeed already see what I expected. TOS is on 6 ROM chips. And by the look of it, the items to convert this are also missing. Because if I zoom in a bit, we see that the pads used to set the configuration are missing here. And to enable switching, there should also be a socket for an 74LS11 chip here. And that one is missing too. Let's take a look at the schematic. Here we see the schematic with the ROM chips of a system that is switchable. This one is from an Atari Mega ST. Here we see the 74LS11 chip, the one that is missing from the 520 ST. The chip contains a number of end ports, but only one is used. In the table at the bottom of the page we see that for 256KB ROMs this U12 chip is not used. Instead, jumper W4 should be placed. This W4 and U12 switches the ROM2 signal. So there are 3 ROM signals. They go to the chip enable connections of the ROM chips. These signals decide which ROM chips must be active. Let's take a look where ROM 0 goes to. This goes to the low and high ROMs of set number 2 and to one of the inputs of the end port. And ROM 1 will then likely go to ROM set number 1. Indeed. And to one of the other inputs of the end port. And ROM 2 then to ROM set 0? Indeed. But via jumper W4. And to the other end port input. But that's the case for 6 256KB ROMs. What if 2 1 megabyte ROMs are used? Then W4 is missing. So then the ROM2 signals does not go to the ROM chip enables of ROM set 0. But then you do have the 74LS11. Then the output of the end port goes to ROM set 0. And then we still have ROM 0 and ROM 1 signals. These do go to sets 2 and 1, but the sockets for those ROMs will be empty. So that has no effect. But the signals also go to the end port. So together with the ROM 2 signal, they decide the state of the output of the end port. So they decide whether ROM set 0 with the 2 1 megabyte ROMs needs to be activated. Then we have also jumpers W2 and W3. Here is specified what they do. For the 6 256 kilobyte ROMs, for both jumpers 1 and 2 are connected. Like this. So these jumpers serve to configure address lines 15 and 16 of the ROMs. Let's look at what address line 15 is connected to in the 6 ROM configuration. It receives a fixed connection with +5 volts. And that also applies to the address line 15 connections of the other ROMs. And what about address line 16? That receives a fixed connection to the ground, just like the connection of the other ROMs. But now if we choose the 2 ROM configuration, then 2 is connected to 3. In this way. And the 2 ROMs are placed in the location of ROM set 0, so the other sockets are empty. So the connections of address lines 15 and 16 for these sockets do nothing. But where does the address line 15 of set 0 go then? It goes to bit 16 of the address bus. And address line 16 goes to bit 17 of the address bus. This applies to the other ROM in set 0 as well. So in this configuration 2 extra address lines are connected to the ROMs. So my 520 ST doesn't have these configuration features. If I want to swap these ROMs, I have to come up with something. But I also have another ST, an Atari 1040 ST. If this one also contains 6 ROMs, and if this machine does have the necessary pads and sockets, then I can place my 2 ROM chips in here and put the 6 ROMs of this machine in the 520 ST. But we won't know until we open it up. Ah, that's a shame. There are 2 ROMs in this one too. So not the 6 ROMs I was hoping for. But this one does have the pads. If there had been 6 in it, it would be easy to modify it. So I have to build a modification for my 520 ST myself. I bought the 74LS11 for the modification. And I want to place this on an experimental board. I then want to place that board in one of the empty sockets. So these 6 ROMs can be removed. But first I'm going to label them so I know where they belong if I might need them again in the future. Now the ROMs can be carefully taken out. There, they are out. I keep them then safe because if the whole project doesn't work out, I need to be able to put them back again. And here I have the 2 ROMs from my Mac AST. I stuck stickers on them back then to know which one was on the left and which one was on the right. But that's no use to me now. I want to know which one is low and which one is high. But that can be found using the chip numbers. Luckily I was able to find it, so I can add it to the labels now. I have cut the experimental board to the size of a ROM chip. And on the underside I've made 4 pins so that it can be placed directly into the ROM socket. And I have a socket here for the 74LS11 chip. A number of new connections need to be made to the ROM chip. For that I bend the relevant pins so they do not make contact with the socket. It applies to pin 1, that's address line 50. And to the other side pin 20, the chip enable. And pin 22, address line 16. The three ROM select signals must be connected to the 74LS11. I can reach one of those signals directly from its own socket. For that I'm adding an extra pin. Before we start using the socket for the 74LS11, I want to be sure that there is enough room for it. Yes, it looks like there is plenty of room. Then we can start soldering the socket now. Right, that's in. Then a capacitor goes across the 5V input. And an angled pin header for the connector for the ROM select connections. Let's check if the connector fits well. Yes, that's fine. I just made the power connection for the 74LS11. I can take that from the pins on the corner of the ROM socket. I get the plus 5V from pin 28. This is also connected to the capacitor. And I get the ground from pin 14. And that also goes to the other side of the capacitor. I get the ROM 0 select from pin 20 of its own socket. I take the ROM 2 select from pin 20 of the socket for ROM 0 low. And the ROM 1 select from pin 20 of the socket for ROM 1 high. These ROM select signals go via this connector to the 74LS11 chip. The output of the end port also goes via this connector to the ROM chips. So I must connect the pin header to the first end port of the 74LS11. Right, that's done. To make sure these wires don't make contact with the pins of the socket, I cover it with some electric tape. Right, they can't make contact anymore. I've now connected one of the end port inputs via the connector to pin 20 of the socket of the ROM 0 low chip enable. And the other input goes to pin 20 of the ROM 1 high socket. Then we have the output of the end port left over. We connect that to the chip enable of the two 1 MB ROM chips. To do this we have bent the legs, so we can solder it like this. And this also needs to go to pin 20 of the other ROM chip. There, these connections are done. And the end output first goes to pin 20 of the low ROM chip, and from there to pin 20 of the high ROM chip. What only remains are the two extra address lines. The address line connections must be connected to the address bus. I do that directly from the CPU. There, those are connected. Bit 16 go directly from the CPU to address line 15 of the two ROMs. And bit 17 goes to address line 16 of the two ROMs. Then we can now place the 74LS11 into the socket. There, it's in. As you can see, the socket has some pins left over. That's because I didn't have a 40-pin socket, but I had an 18-pin socket lying around. Now everything is connected, we can start testing. The ST is now connected with the drive, the monitor and the power. What remains now is the keyboard. The keyboard is necessary, otherwise the ST will go beeping when you start it up. I will point the camera at the monitor. Well, exciting to see what we are going to see. Here it goes. At least we have a picture. And yes, it starts up. The ROM chips are working. And TOS is now in English. Time to go to desktop info. And we see the rainbow logo. So Rainbow TOS, and that is version 1.0.4. But of course we want to see that officially. So I'm setting to mid resolution so we can start sysinfo. Here we have sysinfo. And now we see it here too, TOS version 1.0.4. So operation successful. But now there is just one thing left. The keyboard is still German. So that means looking out for an English keyboard. If I found one, I will let you know. I'm glad that I finally managed to get the ROMs working on the 520 ST. That only leaves me with just the keyboard. I occasionally see a separate keyboard pop up on the local marketplace website. So I just need to be patient. And ultimately I only need the keycaps. And sometimes you can buy those separately. But I did count them, and at the end there are still 19 variant keys. So that might end up being a bit expensive. But for now we've reached the end of this video. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button. And then also click the subscribe button. That really supports this channel. For now I say see you at the next Atarist video. Bye!